Hey there, welcome to my channel where I take you on tours of tiny and unique homes and showcase stories of people living alternatively. Today we're traveling to one of the most expensive housing markets in the United States, but we're interviewing a young homeowner who found a way to live for a fraction of the cost in the first legal tiny house on wheels ADU in San Jose, California. Teja's motivation for going tiny dates back to the beginning of the pandemic. Due to his job, he often needed to quarantine, but wanted to be close to his family to help out when needed. Having a tiny house on wheels parked in his parents' backyard just made sense. If you like these kind of videos, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know every single time we publish a new video. But right now, let's take a tour of Teja's legal tiny house.
Hi, my name is Teja. Welcome to my tiny home on wheels. The reason that I was first inspired to even pursue this is because I wanted to see just how much I could minimize things and see how I could make that transition to just living more minimalistically. Up until that point, I'd just done a lot of living with roommates. I kind of was getting to the stage where I wanted my own space, and that's when I started looking into really the best solution for me in a place like the Bay Area where housing is so expensive, and that's when tiny houses kind of entered my radar. I was able to find a really great builder called Forever Tiny Homes. They were great in working with me to be able to get it exactly how I wanted. This is actually the first permitted tiny home on wheels in San Jose, California. San Jose passed a tiny house ordinance in May 2020, and I started thinking up of the idea of a tiny house in June. And the city was very willing to work with me. Because no one had done it before, I had to submit something akin to architectural plans, but a little bit simpler. They had a checklist I had to go through. So that's what we have here, and this is actually what the city came to inspect and when they approved it. And we were kind of able to come to this standard that now exists that will hopefully make it a lot easier for people to have one of these in their home. So I've been living in this tiny house for about 16 months now. I was very fortunate to be able to place it here where my family already owns property. I wanted this to feel like a space where one could feel at home, where I could have friends, where I could really just like live in it and not feel like I'm trapped, you know, because of the size restriction. And so with that in mind, my budget was between $75,000 to $100,000. I will say this is more of like a luxury apartment on wheels. I knew how much I was able to spend and I wanted to take full advantage of that without going overboard. Overall, the house itself, plus all the work to kind of get the parking pad ready and the permitting, all came out just under, I'd say, $90,000, $95,000, which I was super happy about. This area where the tiny home is placed is a neighborhood in the middle of Silicon Valley where housing prices are pretty high. I couldn't just really go out there and buy a house for $1, $2 million, whatever it may be. I'm about to give you a tour of my tiny house, which is located on the back part of my parents' property right here next to the main house. Come on in. So as we enter here through the front door, we'll first say hi to Indy, who's always there to greet every visitor. What was interesting about bringing this house in is because it's a tiny house on wheels, I was able to kind of knock down this gate and have them just back it up into a parking pad that we created. One of the reasons I picked a tiny house on wheels is because it's not on a foundation. It's much easier to get the permitting. It was much easier to just get it set up and the costs were much lower. So the parking pad just basically consists of 4 concrete pours that we put down. There's cinder blocks that the house is sitting on. And then as you can see over here at the wheels, we have them on these kind of jack arrest things that make sure the house doesn't go anywhere. So it's nice and secure on its own parking pad. This is composite wood siding, so there's no plastic in this. It's like a wood meld. Have a nice little window here to get lots of airflow. These are tinted on the outside, but from the inside, you're able to see perfectly clear out. The power line runs under the house, goes through under this concrete pour, and it comes out and it's plugged into an RV connection over there. And then down here, if I remove this, You can see that line I was talking about, and there's also the RV hose. That's the drainage output for the house, and it goes right into a RV sewer clean out that I had placed there. And it basically just feeds into there and goes under the house and connects to the city sewage system. This is a shared backyard space connected to the main house. I have a younger brother who's finishing up college, and my parents are in this house. So this was actually the basketball hoop where I would play since I was a little kid. So it's been kind of nice having the same backyard space. So he and I will play basketball out here after our days, just to unwind, hang out a little bit. The tiny house has really brought me closer to my family, and just having a space like this that we can share while still having our own spaces to retreat to has been really great. We have a gazebo over here, which interestingly was already here before the tiny house even got here. So a lot of the exterior detail and the exterior entrance of the tiny house was based on how this was sat in the backyard. So I basically just converted it into an outdoor living area, put up some lights to kind of add to the vibe. We have a dartboard in there, seating area for board games, for hanging out, even have a projector set up that I can pull in and out. This is my telescope. One of the really cool things about having an outdoor space is to be able to use this on clear nights. This is called a Dobsonian. Great place to start. It looks really big and it looks intimidating, but this is the best beginner telescope you can get. It's just a great little piece to have and show people when they come around, just the magnificence of what we're living in out here. So I use this often, almost every night whenever it's clear. So here I actually have the AC compressor for the HVAC set outside. I chose not to have it mounted on the house because just based on some trials that I did, sometimes it shakes the window a little bit or shakes the house. Coming down further this way, we have some plants. We've got an apple tree, some pomegranate tree. This is actually a persimmon right here. All the way over here, under all this foliage, if I move it aside, you'll see I have a hard water regeneration system. Basically, I have my water connection going to here first. It filters out all the hard water, cleans it out for me, sends it back under, through, right into the connection into the house, and I get nice, fresh, clean water, and it's been great. We have my tankless water heater out here, the service access for it. It's also great, which means I don't need to time my showers. I try not to waste much water at all, but it's also nice having this because there's no limit to how much hot water I can have at one time. So it's been really great to have something like this. And then I will squeeze into this corner and you can see where I have my gas hooked up. That is the main source of power for the house in terms of the stove and the tankless water heater. And you'll also see that I have my tow hitch, which normally came with the house. It's removable. I took it down and put it under the house for storage. If I ever want to put it back on, it's just a few bolts on either side, probably about 45 minutes of work with a hand or two holding up the weight. And then the house is ready to roll out if I ever needed to. All right, now that you've kind of seen the exterior of the house and everything going on there, why don't you come on in and I'll show you the inside as well. We have the kitchen here. It's got a 3-burner gas stovetop with the added oven. It's great, you can have all 3 going at the same time, and when you're not using it, you just put this down and it's just additional counter space. The counter itself is quartzite material, so it's pretty lightweight, but feels like marble still. And it's just been great. I wanted to make sure I had a space to food prep, to be able to just kind of move around. And then here we have a workstation sink, probably one of my favorite parts of the kitchen. The sink itself is big enough, it's double wide, but when I'm not using the whole thing, I have a cutting board side and I have a dish drying rack side, and you can actually just remove all of these. And I usually just stow them down here. And once you do, and take out the vegetable strainer, you'll see it's a giant sink. So you can put all kinds of dishes in there. Just make sure you don't pile them up. Have my Nespresso coffee machine here. Lots of pods behind you over there. Use it every day in the morning when I want to grab a coffee and get out real quick. One other thing I'll mention is all of my drawers are soft close. So it's a nice little touch that I wanted, just to be able to open and close them. I have all my utensils, some pots and pans, and all my Tupperware down here. makes the kitchen feel more luxury. And over here we have the great room area. Right now I have my work table down. I can also put this up and use it as like a home workspace. I'm actually a clinical researcher. I work in ophthalmology. I'm at Stanford University, and we try to help people with blinding diseases. We try to find different cures for their blindness when in the past we didn't have the technology to really offer them any treatments. On the side, I started my own consulting business to help people get a tiny home like this in the Bay Area. Some artwork on the walls. These are actually posters from NASA JPL, and they actually imagine what it would be like in the future if you could actually travel to these different planets and stars out there. So it's just kind of something inspirational I like having on there. And I will mention this is the one plant I've managed to keep alive over the last year and a half. My friend Corinne gave it to me, and it's really thrived in here. And in terms of the small touches of the house, I have a lot of these little 3D printed busts that my friend Adam made for me. All my favorite philosophers kind of peppered throughout the house to give it some character. And over here we have the interior view of the double-sided sliding door. It can open on both sides, so you can choose to redo the layout of the house. Probably the one feature of this that gets anyone, not just tiny house aficionados, is that the blinds themselves never have to be cleaned on their own. I can just open and close them. They're self-contained within the housing of the door. So it's a cool little touch. And probably my favorite little piece that I made for the house itself is this photo shelf. I actually saw this idea on a different tiny home build. And so I highly recommend having a personal touch like this. It means a lot to me. I basically took an IKEA shelf, cut some plexiglass to the right size, screwed it in with a gap. Whenever friends come in, we'll take a Polaroid and have them sign it and throw it in there. So this is basically like a guest book for me. The one thing I knew I wanted to fit in a tiny home and not compromise on is a record player. I wanted to have it just for that sound quality and just for that vibe. I have my record collection down here, have an amplifier. The turntable is a U-turn turntable, highly recommend it. And the speakers are actually routed along the side of the door. They're both up there. And this is Indy's space. She always takes my seat, so this is basically her seat now. Everything in here, including this light, I sourced myself. This is actually from Home Depot. I think it adds another nice little touch to the house, gives it a modern look. I'm really happy with the design decisions I made, and I got lucky in that they all worked out. And then if we turn around here, we'll have the stairway. There's storage under these stairs. There's cubby holes down here and two main cupboards, basically. This is just full of miscellaneous items in here. This is where all my hanging clothes are, nice and organized. I have about 15 years of movie stubs that I've collected randomly in this box from a Navy surplus store. So just little things that I'd like to save and have. Over here is a double pantry. Honestly, I think I have more storage here than I really need. This is an apartment-sized fridge. It holds more than enough for 2+ people. Got a freezer on top, fridge on the bottom, has my water filter in there as well. And then I chose to put the microwave above it just to keep everything compact. I have a little Simply Safe system on here just to further secure the house because it is detached from the main house. So that gives me some confidence, especially if I'm traveling, to be able to turn that on and monitor it from wherever I am. And then if we hop in here, I'll show you the bathroom. It's a full bathroom. Having the bathroom be like an appropriate size was really important to me. A lot of tiny homes that I was looking at as a concept tended to have a smaller bathroom. I was able to come up with a floor plan for the bathroom and really work with Arlene at Forever Tiny Homes to be able to design a space that didn't take up too much room, but gave me enough room to be able to use this space to change, to have a full shower in, to have a toilet with a bidet and a sink with storage. And on the side I have, 4 shelves full of toiletries and other items that I can store in there. There's no lack of storage in this bathroom. Over here I have a little piece that my friend printed out for me. I was lucky enough to be on Jeopardy when Alex Trebek was still host a couple years ago, and her grandma graciously saved the newspaper article and she framed it and gave it to me for my birthday. And I thought, what better place to display this than the bathroom? So that's why that's there. All right, we're gonna head on upstairs. One of the reasons why I picked stairs instead of a ladder here is just to be able to provide the mobility in case I had guests over or someone else was using this space and they needed to be able to come up the stairs versus use a ladder. And as you'll notice, this last step here, it transitions into this place where you can just put your knee on it and go straight in. Nice and cozy. I can definitely sit up here and read. It's designed mainly for sleeping. I really like this space, especially because it gives this kind of treehouse feeling, like you're just nestled in here. I also have this skylight that I put up here, and the reason is because it gives me much more head clearance now that I have that here. And at night, actually, you can see a lot of stars when you have the skylight open. It's beautiful. The skylight actually itself has a shade, so it's able to be fully closed, as do both these windows. These are shades that I installed myself, and these are completely light blocking. So when I put them down during the daytime, no light passes through, and they're great. I highly recommend them. You can get them in lots of different colors to match the interior of your house, and I got them in this gray to match the cabinetry downstairs. I have shelving on this other side here, some books that I'm currently reading, alarm clock, and a couple game systems that are connected to the TV on the other side, so I can access it from down there as well. What I enjoy the most about living in a space like this is there is no wasted space here. So I had to really plan out exactly the things that were important to me and cut out the things that weren't. It showed me that I can live with kind of minimalistic means. I'm able to have friends over and really have them enjoy the space as well. Size itself isn't necessarily a constraint. It's fit me well. I like to adapt and challenge myself with these kind of things. So you can certainly be comfortable in a tiny space if you make it your own.
Thanks for watching this week's video. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you soon with another tiny or unique home tour.